Hey, welcome to a video here. I got some algebra questions for an 8th grader. And we have the top part right here is giving us a graph. And in the graph, we have the points, I believe it's negative 2, 3, negative 2, 3, and negative 1, 0. We have to find the slope. Okay, so how do we find slope? What's the formula for slope? Okay, 1. Okay, so the formula for slope, we abbreviate slope as m, and we say slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's the change in y over the change in x. Another way that we show that is change. The Greek word for change is delta. Sorry, I'm getting these crusties off my screen. Delta, and that's a triangle. That looks like a triangle. That looks like a triangle. I don't know about that. Delta y over delta x. Okay. So if I got the points negative 2 comma 3 and negative 1 comma 0, okay, well, if I'm going to do y minus y, it doesn't matter. I could do this y because we got here. Wait, let's label this really quick. This is x and y, x and y. Okay, I could do this y minus this y, and if I do it in that order, I have to do that x minus that x. Or I could do it the other order. I could do this y minus that y, but then I have to do this x minus this x. You'll get the same slope as long as you keep them in the points in the right order. So let's show how both ways would be correct. So if I do this y point first, 3 minus 0 on top, and on the bottom, since I did this point first, I'm going to do this x first. So I got negative 2 minus negative 1. Okay, so we got to keep our negatives and minuses all straight here. So on top I have 3 minus 0, which that's 3. That is 3. And on the bottom I have negative 2 minus negative 1. Well, I was always taught to change, if you have minus and negative, you change it to plus, and you change that to positive. And what do we get is negative 2 plus 1, which is negative 1. Well, 3 over negative 1 is negative 3. That's the same as 3 divided by negative 1. Okay, now if we did the other order, if we did, instead of doing 3 minus 0, we did 0 minus 3 first. Let's see what would happen. 0 minus 3. And since I did this one minus this one, I have to do negative 1 minus negative 2. Negative 1 minus negative 2. Same thing. 0 minus 3 is negative 3, right? It's the same as saying 0 plus negative 3. Okay? So that's negative 3 up top. And on the bottom, I have negative 1 minus negative 2, which is turn that to plus. And then you get negative 1 plus 2, which is positive 1. And negative 3 divided by 1 is negative 3. So you see, no matter what, we got the slope of negative 3. You just got to keep, if you're going to subtract this point minus this point, you have to do the same for y as you do for x. If you do this one first, 3 minus 0, then you have to do negative 2 minus negative 1. So that's how you do the first 3 with the graphs. All these other ones, number 4 through 15, instead of a graph, they just give you the points. Notice number 3 is a horizontal line here. You should be able to still get a slope for that. So for here, let's just take one of these for example. Let's take number 7 here. So we got 7. We got number 7. Let's do that really quick. Number 7 gives us the point 7, negative 4. And 4, 8. Okay, so I'm going to do change in y over change in x. Okay, and that's subtraction. So we're going to do, let's do 8 minus negative 4. Okay, because I did this y minus that y. And if I'm going to do it in that order, I have to do this x minus this x on the bottom. 4 minus 7. Okay. Well, what is 8 minus negative 4? Well, I'm going to change that to plus, and I'm going to change that to positive, and I get 8 plus 4, which is 12. On the bottom, 4 minus 7. Well, you could change that to plus and that to negative. 4 plus negative 7 is going to be negative 3. Okay. And basically, it's saying what is 12 divided by negative 3? Well, that's negative 4. So the slope on that would be negative 4. Okay. And if I did it the other way, if I did negative 4 minus 8 and 7 minus 4, I'd get the same answer. Okay. Okay, for this next section here, you're given 2 points and the slope, but one of the points is missing a value, so they call that R. Okay, and there's 2 special cases here. You got m equals undefined and m equals 0. We'll get to those in a second. Okay, so let's do one of these really quick. There's a couple ways we could go about this. So number 17 gives us the points, negative 4, 3, and r comma 5, and the slope is 1/4. Well, there's a couple different ways. We know that the slope formula is going to be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, and that equals slope. Okay. Now, for this one, we know what y2 and y1 are. So y2 for number 17 is going to be 5. So we're going to do 5. 5 minus, so we got 5 minus 3. And then the x, we don't know what x2 is. It's r. And then x1 is negative 4. R minus negative 4. Okay, so I'm just taking these points and using the slope formula. 5 minus 3 over r minus negative 4 equals the slope, which is 1/4. Okay, now this is just an equation that we could solve. We could solve for r, and that'll give us our answer. Okay, so on top, 5 minus 3, so we could actually solve 5 minus 3, so that's 2. On the bottom, we could kind of simplify that. R minus negative 4 is the same as r plus 4. Okay, r plus 4 equals 1/4. Okay, so now we kind of got to get our variable by itself. So I could multiply both sides by r plus 4, the denominator. So I'm going to multiply both sides by r plus 4. And what do I get? I get 2 on this side because this is going to cancel out. And then I get r plus 4 over 4. Okay, now I want to multiply both sides by 4, the denominator. Okay, and I'm going to get 8 equals r plus 4. And now I want to subtract 4 from both sides. And I get 4 equals r. Okay, so that's one way to figure out the missing point. The other way is to use the point slope formula, which I don't know if you got to that yet. Okay, but what that looks like is y minus y1 equals slope times x minus x1. So if you know any point on the graph, you would fill in x1 and y1 with those points. So if you look at our problem here, we don't know that r, but we do know this point right here. We know negative 4 comma 3. So that's a point we know. We also know the slope. So now we could figure out the equation of this line. Okay, so we could plug in, for y we plug in 3, and for x we plug in negative 4, and then the slope's 1/4. So let's do that. Okay, so for y, so this y is going to stay y. It's going to stay y minus, and then the y1 is going to be 3, equals slope is 1/4, and then x minus what's x1? That's going to be negative 4. Okay. This is going to give us the equation of the line. This way is a little longer. Okay, so let's work this out. We got y minus 3 equals now 1/4 x. I'm going to distribute the 1/4. Now, notice here I have minus and negative 4. It's really saying plus 4. Okay, and then so if I'm distributing the 1/4, 1/4 times x is 1/4 x. 1/4 times 4, well, that's going to be 1/4 times 4 is 4 over 4, which is 1. Okay. Now you want to solve for y. So you want y all by itself. So what you're going to do is add 3 on both sides. And you get y equals 1/4 x plus 4. Okay, now this is the equation of the line. But how does that help us get what r is? Well, the way that helps us get what r is, now we could plug in. We know r is the x point. We don't know what it is. We know 5 is the y point that goes along with it. Okay, so I'm going to plug in r for x and 5 for y and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to take my equation. I'm going to take y equals 1/4 x plus 4. And since I know what y is 5. X, I don't know what it is. It's r. So let's plug that in. Y is 5. I don't know what x is, plus 4. So now we're going to solve for x. Okay. So we're going to get x by itself. We want to subtract 4 on both sides. And we get 1 equals 1/4 x. Okay. And then to get x by itself, basically this is saying x over 4. So we got to multiply both sides by 4. Okay. When you do that, that 4 and that 4 cancels out. What you're left with is, on the 4 times 1 is 4 equals x. X equals 4. So you saw no matter which way I did it, if I did it the first way, I got 4. If I did it this way, I got 4. Okay. So way number 1, the first way I did it was just use the slope formula. And since I don't know what that x point was, I just used r for it. And I set it up equal to the slope, which it told me what the slope was 1/4. And then I solved for r. The other way I did it, I used the point slope formula, y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. I plugged in the points that I did know. The full point that I knew was -4, 3. I plugged that in to y1 and x1. And then I plugged in the slope as well. What that gave me was the slope, the slope-intercept form of the formula of the line. Y equals 1/4 x plus 4. From there, I could plug in my missing value. I could plug in r for x, and 5 I could plug in for y, which is what I did. I left x as I didn't know it, but I plugged in 5 for y, and I solved for x and I got 4. So you can see either way we got the missing value. This way might be a little easier. Okay. All right, and then there's a couple special cases. If you look at number 20, it gives you 1 comma 4 and r comma 5. So let's take that one really quick. This one. All right, now let's put it over here. Okay, so what does slope mean when it's undefined? Well, if you think about it, the slope formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And when something's undefined in algebra, it means we're trying to divide by 0. That means the change in x, the denominator is 0. Okay, so if you're trying to divide by 0, this is called undefined. You cannot divide by 0. So what that means is undefined. What that means is if the slope's undefined, that means the change in x is 0. If you think about a graph, here, you got x and y. If y is changing, but x doesn't change, it stays the same, that means it's a straight up and down line. So a straight up and down line has undefined slope because there is no change in x. So at this line they give me here, 1 comma 4, r comma 5, has no change in x because it's a straight up and down line. So if you think about it, 1 comma 4 and r comma 5, if it goes straight up and down and there's no change in x, what is the missing x value going to be? If it goes straight up and down and x doesn't change, it's also going to be 1. So 1 comma 4, 1 comma 5. Okay, so if I graph that here, so if I had like 1 comma 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 comma 4 would be like right here, and 1 comma 5 would be like right here. So it'd be a straight up and down line. So here, if I look at that, the missing value, since slope is undefined, that means it's a straight up and down line. That means x doesn't change. That means this missing value must have the same x as that. It must also be 1. R must also be 1 here. And then the other one that's a little goofy is number 23 here. And what these ones look like is m equals 0. So what does it mean when slope equals 0? When slope equals 0, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. When slope equals 0, that must mean the numerator 0. If the denominator is 0, it's undefined. If the numerator is 0, you could do that. You could do 0 divided by something. You just can't do something divided by 0. Okay? So basically it's saying 0 over x2 minus x1. So what does that look like on a graph? If change in y is 0, if the change in y is 0, that must mean it's a horizontal line. If you think about it, if you look at a horizontal line here, I know it doesn't look too horizontal, but if you look at a horizontal line here, x is always changing, right? You can see as the line moves to the right, x is changing. However, the y coordinate is always staying the same. A horizontal line, the y coordinate is always the same. If y is always the same, that means there's no change in y. That's why it's 0. So that's why slope equals 0. So if we look at this line, r comma 2 and 5 comma r, and it's a horizontal line, well, that must mean the y coordinate does not change. The y coordinate does not change. So this r right here must also be 2. Okay, that second r must be 2. Okay, so you're going to have r comma 2 as a point, and then 5 comma 2 as the other point, because y is not changing. It's going to be a horizontal line. As far as what this x value could be, it could be anything, because but if it's going to also be r, then it also must be 2. So if they're using the same variable, r and r, then this must be 2 comma 2 and 5 comma 2. Okay, the reason why I got this 2 here for the y coordinate is because it's a horizontal line where y doesn't change. So if y doesn't change because the slope is 0 and y is 2 here, then y must also be 2 here. And then I look, and this is the same variable r. So if they're going to use the same variable, then if the r equals 2 here, then r must equal 2 there. Okay, hope that makes a little bit of sense. And then finally, we got these word problems on here. The pitch of a roof is the number of feet the roof rises for each 12 feet horizontal. If a roof has a pitch of 8, what is the slope expressed as a positive number? So let's read that again. The pitch of a roof is the number of feet the roof rises for each 12 feet horizontally. Okay, so let's take that problem really quick. Okay, let's put it over here. All right, the pitch of a roof is the number of the feet the roof rises for each 12 feet horizontally. So remember, horizontal is x, okay? Rises is up and down. Because another way to talk about slope is called rise over run, okay? Rise means up and down, up and down. Run is left and right, okay? So the pitch of a roof is the number of feet the roof rises for each 12 feet horizontally. Well, horizontal is left and right. So that means your denominator is going to be 12. If a roof has a pitch of 8, what is its slope expressed as a positive number? So if the pitch equals 8, I don't know how much it rose. Okay. So if that's the case, if I don't know how much it rose, I got to solve for, I shouldn't put x there. That should be y, actually, because rise is y. Okay. So what I would do is multiply both sides by 12, and I'll get y equals, if I multiply both sides by 12, I get y equals 96. Okay. So what I don't understand is the pitch of 8. Pitch is the slope. So what is the slope expressed as a positive number? Shouldn't it be 8? Now, if it's asking what the rise is, it's going to be 96. Okay, so that question's a little confusing. If a roof has a pitch of 8, what is its slope expressed as a positive number? Okay, so that one doesn't really make sense to me. Because if pitch is the slope in this case. Okay. Finally, let's go to the last one here. Sorry, can't really help you with that. They wrote that question really weird. And this one here. All right, so last one. The daily newspaper has 12,125 subscribers when it began publication. 5 years later, it had 10,100 subscribers. What is the average yearly rate of change in the number of subscribers for the 5-year period? So if we express this as 2 points, let's express time. Let's express time as x. So we're going to have time. If we had a graph here, we would have time, and we would have subscribers. Okay. So time, we're going to do years. We start with 0 years, and it goes up to 5 years here. And over here, subscribers at 0 years, when it began publication, that's year 0, was 12,125. So we could say here was 12,125. And at year 5, it went down to 10,100 subscribers. So here we could say 10,100. Okay, so we just use the slope formula here. So y, we're going to do y2 minus y1. We're going to do 12,125 minus 10,100 over change in x. Okay, so if I'm using 12,125 first, the x value that goes along with that is 0. Okay, so just get the order correct. And then the x point that goes along with 10,100 is 5. So this is what we got right here. So what is 12,000? 1 second. What is 12,125 minus 10,100? Well, that's 2,025. 2,025. And then what's 0 minus 5? Well, that's negative 5. So we got to do 2,025 divided by negative 5. Divided by negative 5. And I get negative 405. Okay. So the rate of change from subscriptions for the 5-year period is negative 405. You may ask, why is it negative? It's because they lost subscriptions. Over the 5-year period, it went from 12,125 down to 10,100. So since it lost subscriptions, the answer is going to be negative. They lost negative 405 subscriptions per year. All right.